You're listening to Impulse to Innovation. The Institution of Mechanical Engineers podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Helen Mees. As a global community of mechanical engineers with over 120,000 members in 140 countries, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers has been at the heart of the engineering profession since 1847. The institution's mission is to improve the world through engineering by sharing the latest news, views and insight into the creative world of technology and the people that make it happen. In this month's episode, we continue the theme of the IMechE Engineering Challenges, focusing on the Unmanned Aerial System or UAS challenge. The event is held in mid-July at the British Model Flying Association's National Centre at Buckminster. This event sees teams of university students design, build, test and fly an unmanned aircraft system, scoring points across these different segments to win the competition. So while I was busy preparing for our live Formula Student podcast, the institution's young members were out recording the highs and lows at the UAS. The University of Surrey were crowned Grand Champions this year, with an impressive combination of scoring across their reports and autonomous flights during the event, even recovering from a crash to have a fourth attempt at the release of the AirDropBox system. Loughborough University only just missed out on the top spot due to a rather terminal crash, but they did manage to scoop up the majority of awards in innovation, design, safety and operational supportability. There was also a virtual competition where teams could submit their designs online in lieu of them being able to attend in person. This enabled international teams to compete and gain recognition for their work despite COVID restrictions. Teams from Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Greece all secured some of the virtual competition awards, with India's Team Rise from the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies in first place. Stephen McLaughlin, the Young Members Board Aerospace Division representative and one of the UAS judges, was on site to talk to Paul Lloyd, chair of the UAS Challenge, Phil Briggs from Kinetic, one of the event sponsors, Christina Linden, UAS project manager, and one of the Imperial College London team members.
Hi Paul, welcome to the Impulse to Innovation podcast. We're here live at the UAS Challenge now this week. Do you want to give yourself a brief introduction?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm Paul Lloyd. I'm the chair of the UAS Challenge, and I've been involved in this challenge since the idea was created, which is probably now about 8 years ago, when we set the whole idea up. So we've been running it since then, and I've been looking after the whole challenge, making sure that we get the teams together, sponsorship together, and sort of STEM opportunities across the board.
Obviously, there's been a lot of challenges with the UAS Challenge and any of the IMechE's challenges this year with the COVID pandemic. The UAS Challenge has went for a hybrid approach with a live event and a virtual event. How do you think that's gone this year, Paul?
So there's no denying that this year, in fact, the last 18 months has been a real challenge for all of us, hasn't it? As we've had to deal with the pandemic. So we took the decision early to move to this hybrid approach, to offer a virtual event as well as a live event. Obviously, as we ran through the period, we were worried that the ability to actually run a live event. So it's been absolutely fantastic that we've been able to get teams here to these last few days to actually have a live event, to actually meet up and do it. But I think the offering a virtual and a live events and certainly bringing them together is a really good idea. It brings out different challenges and different aspects from the teams. So obviously, from a virtual point of view, you can really prove that their design from a virtual perspective works. We can really understand, where their designs are going and really how the aircraft might fly. So that's really, really positive way for the teams to show, what they can, how their aerodynamics can work. But you just can't beat, though, in the reality of coming and actually having a real event and seeing the physical world of trying to make your design real, build it, and then fly it. So I think there's a real need for both opportunities, and let's really hope we've moved out and we're moving out of a pandemic, and this time next year and onwards we'll be able to combine the events together to have a sort of a virtual and then moving directly into a live event for the team, so they can show both aspects and we can run that together.
Do you think the hybrid approach is something that would be good for the UAS challenge to use going forward in the future, or do you think it might go strictly back to a live event at the end?
I think we're with the success for the virtual event this year, I think we would look to try and incorporate both into the challenge. As I said, it provides an opportunity for those teams that maybe can't physically build their aircraft for whatever reason. That's that might be more technical issues as well as, let alone hopefully out of any kind of pandemic, ability to travel. So it offers ability for teams to at least continue forward with this competition and show their design, and then move into the real world. So I think it's something we'll look to try and incorporate both together, because I think it could provide some really interesting opportunities for that joint approach.
Another change for the UAS challenge this year was moving site. So the last couple of years we've been in Llanbedr on the west coastline. This year we've moved to the BMFA site here in Buckminster. So how do you think that change of site has gone for the challenge, and how do you see things improving for the challenge next year at this site?
So it's worth remembering this is our fourth site we've actually flown the challenge from. So we've been somewhat nomadic. We spent a few years at Llanbedr before we took the opportunity to move here to Buckminster. I think that this is a fantastic site in a fantastic location, and as it's already a home for the BMFA, it's incredibly well geared for the sort of competition that we're trying to run. So that it's very well set up for that. So I think that as a site, it offers a lot of opportunities to move forward, and really hoping that we can keep here. It's a little bit more accessible for teams, I think, which is good. But also, keen to promote STEM. There's a good catchment of schools around here as well we can bring along to show what the competition's about. So I think I'm really hoping that we can spend a few more years working out of here. One opportunity of having the actual challenge here this year and actually having a live event was just to test out the site for all of us. We'd been here and visited, but of course last year's competition having to be cancelled, we just didn't get an opportunity to even trial the event. So this has been a really helpful way just to run through the procedures, make sure we understand how the site works, because it does take a little time for the judges, the scrutineers, and just all the volunteers as well as the teams to work out how the event could be organised. And even already we've identified some areas we can help to improve and make the flow smoother. So that's why it's really helpful that we come back in. This year's been a really great opportunity to practice that before we move back next year for a full-on event with significantly more teams. When we really do need to make sure our procedures and processes are absolutely honed, so we can keep the maximum amount of flying possible.
From a flying and demonstration perspective, how have you enjoyed the shows that the teams have been putting on so far, between flying and crashing and the walks through the hangar and the pits?
So one of the reasons that I've been carrying on help to organise and then to run and then be here at this event is because I just absolutely love the enthusiasm and the innovation that we see from the university teams every year. So seeing the way they're working together in the pits to work their designs and work their aircraft up to being ready to go flying is always great to watch, and great to be able to, for the judges and others to be able to offer some advice and help on for them to help and in terms of moving their design and work forwards. But you can't beat the flying. You can't beat watching them going flying, and actually even just the kind of the sight of their design, going from a drawing board to reality to actually getting airborne. That is just fantastic fun to see that, and them to work as a team as well, because teams often don't get a chance to work in that we put them under a bit of pressure. So that pressure environment to actually get the aircraft up and ready and running in time is something they don't often do. So it's really good to watch their teamwork as they try and get that together. The flying is always great fun. Nobody really wants to watch a crash but it's always quite fun to watch some aircraft fly and go around. But every year really enjoy the flying, and that's why the really important thing is to maximise the amount of flying we can get at this event. From a spectator's point of view, but just purely from for that, because that's what we're all about at this flying event here.
Hi Phil, welcome to the Impulse to Innovation podcast. Phil, you're involved this year as a judge, both a judge and a sponsor. Do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Phil Briggs. I'm from Kinetic, and I work as a senior technical lead, and specifically in UAS for Kinetic. We've sponsored this competition for many years now, ever since it started, in fact, and it's something that we see as very valuable to be involved in.
That's great. First, we'll chat about your experience as a sponsor of the competition. A few questions on that, just to give the listeners a taste of what sponsorship means for the challenge. How have you been involved as a sponsor in the UAS challenge this year?
Yeah, so as a sponsor, the primary involvement has been via the judging of the competition and reviewing and marking a lot of the submissions by the students on their designs, and I guess also providing judging support to both the virtual and live events this year. We also have brought along some of our sort of younger junior members of staff to the event who've actually been part of this competition in previous years.
Just staying on the sponsorship theme as well, what benefits do you see for your company of sponsoring the competition, the challenge?
Yeah, so this is a really important competition to Kinetic. The work that the students undertake to progress through this competition each year is exactly the type of collaborative team working and technical work that we would like to see in people joining our company. So the learning experience that the teams get through working through an industrially relevant project from start to finish is really valuable to us to see them get that experience and understand the ways of working and the challenges and working through all of those to get to something that's successful and flying at the other end.
Now, Phil, putting your judge's hat on, how do you feel the UAS challenge has gone this year?
It's been a difficult year for the challenge because of the COVID situation, but I think the organisers and the teams have really stepped up to meet that challenge. The bringing in of the virtual event to enable teams who were not able to attend the live fly-off was a fantastic addition to the competition, and it worked extremely well. It was great to see the designs of those other teams flying in that virtual environment, performing against some of the challenges in a model that was set here in Buckminster, where we're at the moment. So that was really great to see. The live challenge that we're here at the moment is going extremely well, and it's been great to see the different aircraft designs in reality and see them fly and see them score points. We've had glide challenges completed, we've had navigation challenges completed, and we hope to very shortly see an airdrop completed as well. So it's been exciting watching, and great to see the collaboration and teamwork that's been going on in the pit lanes too.
Also, from a judge's perspective, what has been the most challenging aspect of the UAS challenge this year for the team?
Yeah, for the teams, I think the most challenging aspect has been their ability to get together and do the collaborative elements of the work. I think the doing things over video conferencing has worked to an extent, but I think that they've had real challenges in getting that collaboration done, and then that has translated into difficulties in them being able to manufacture and then fly their vehicles in reality, which is, I guess, why we've had to go to this virtual and live event approach. I think that they've done a great job of doing that. From a judging perspective, the increased level of judging as a result of having two parallel competitions has been interesting, but I think it's definitely been worthwhile, given that we've enabled so many of the competitors to have a go at the competition in the best way that we were able to provide something that they can compete in.
And as you've mentioned, this year was a hybrid approach where we've had a live and a virtual event. Do you think this is something which would be good going forward, or would you like just to get back to a strictly live event?
I think that the virtual event definitely has its merits and potentially could form part of the competition as a permanent addition. How we would bring that in, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. Maybe perhaps there'd be a cut-off if there are only so many teams we could accommodate at the live fly-off event. Then maybe some of the teams, it could be a precursor to being able to attend. I don't know. It's been a useful addition. It would be a shame to see it go, but we'll have to have a think about how we bring that in future.
I think we would certainly need more judges if that were the case also.
Yeah, absolutely.
The workload this year has been a lot greater than previous years.
Absolutely.
A major change this year in the UAS Challenge has also been the change of site. We've moved from the coastline of Wales and Llanbedr to the BMFA site here in Buckminster. What's your opinion of the layout of the site here in Buckminster, and how suitable it'll be for the competition and improving everything going forward?
Yeah, I mean, every site has its sort of benefits, and they're different benefits for the different locations. I think this site particularly, its location in the Midlands, means that it's reasonably equitable for most people to travel here. So that's great. I think there's a great opportunity for broader STEM engagement here in Buckminster, and it'd be really good to see some of the younger school age students to come along and see some of the achievements of the teams here at the event. I think the site itself has got some really good possibilities for us to maybe enable more people to be flying at once. So that might be quite an exciting proposition for next year's competition. And I think the place is very well looked after and manicured. So I think there's people out there cutting grass as we speak. So it's a very very smart and well kept site. So I think people will like visiting here.
Connecting 3, 2, 1.
Checking controls.
Connecting.
Yeah.
Hi, Christina. We're live here from the BMFA site at Buckminster at the UAS Challenge 2021. Do you want to give the listeners to the Impulse to Innovation podcast a bit of an overview or introduction to yourself, please?
Hi, so as said, I'm Christina and I am the project manager here at the IMechE UAS Challenge for 2021. I've been involved in the UAS Challenge for the past couple of years, and obviously last year we didn't get to go ahead with COVID. So this has been quite a great year to actually get some teams down here and actually running the IMechE competition. It's my first year as the program manager, and obviously this year we've had both the virtual and live events, which is the first year we've ever done both of them. So that's been fantastic and a very unique learning experience from our behalf. In terms of my role here as the program manager, I've done a couple of roles as part of the committee looking after the UAS challenge. But my first year as the program manager, I just coordinate the event, make sure we've got all the resources and volunteers and all the SWEP personnel in order to be able to judge, scrutinise, and obviously safely get these aircraft operating. But yeah, that's my role in short. I'm sure I could go through into a lot more detail, but I think everyone get a little bit bored by that.
So you mentioned there that you're a past participant in the challenge. How did you find participating in the challenge, and how do you think it has helped you in your career and developing into the great engineer that you are now?
Yeah, my first involvement in the UAS challenge was actually back in 2016 as a master's student myself, where obviously given the opportunity in any degree, you're going to want to build something, and the UAS IMechE challenge offered that for our university. So we came from University of Liverpool as a team, joined in 2016, and I can say it was an experience, and it was fantastic in terms of meeting all the other teams and seeing what the universities actually come up with, and some very unique and crazy ideas on some occasions, but to actually see them fly is amazing. In terms of what I learned from there, the UAS IMechE challenge actually offers the students a glimpse into the world of aviation, from everything from going through preliminary design reviews, critical design reviews, flight readiness reviews, actually demonstrating that your aircraft not only meets a requirement set within the competition, but you can operate it safely and it's airworthy. They are important aspects within the aviation world, and the UAS challenge mimics that, but on a much smaller scale. Although it was the first time, obviously, I ever went through that in the UAS challenge back as a student myself, actually throughout my career since graduating and working with projects and actual aircraft, it's actually just on a bigger scale. All the aspects, working as a team, coordinating everyone together, and all these factors are all what you have to consider. It gives you a very strong skill set of knowing just what should be working and how it should be working together, that you actually don't realise until you go off in the world just what we're trying to prepare you for. Just as we say to all the students, everyone has a responsibility towards safety, and we try and drill that in during the competition. And obviously it's great, it's fun as well. You get to see an aircraft at the end, you get to do some flying, hopefully, with a lot of the university students getting them up and getting them up in the air, and actually being able to see from start to finish an idea that you've had is a very unique experience. Out in the aviation industry, it can take 20 years to get an aircraft from design to actually being in flight, being used. So to see it on a much smaller scale is a really opportunity that every student should take, and honestly, it will be very rewarding at the end. And I can say for myself, I never fully appreciated it until actually going into the industry and going, okay, now I understand why you were telling us to work the way we were. And that's what made me want to come back to the UAS challenge. So when I got asked to come back as a volunteer in another role, I jumped at the chance, and I have seen students from when I first came back actually go off into the aviation world and come back and go, yeah, okay, we now understand it. And when I was asked to be a program manager, there's not a better opportunity. I love coming every year, and despite COVID, we've come, and all the teams that have made it, I am sure they'll agree it's been an absolutely great experience, and hopefully next year will be just as good, if not better, with all the teams back to the way we normally are.
Yeah, Christina, you mentioned there now you're project manager, program manager of the challenge. How have you found this role this year? It's been quite a challenging year in the world with the COVID pandemic. How has that impacted the challenge? And obviously, with the virtual and live event, how have you found managing that whole side of the program?
Unfortunately, we couldn't go ahead with the challenge last year. We didn't have the time to put together any sort of virtual competition other than the normal submissions that we did. But this year, the challenge committee and our volunteering team got together and said we wanted to do something. We wanted to give the students that couldn't make it an opportunity to learn in that real engineering environment. Don't get me wrong, the live event has been really great over the past few days, and we'll never want to take that aspect away. Actually building an aircraft and seeing it fly, there's no better satisfaction and real sense of achievement when you get it off the ground. If you can complete the mission, fantastic, but getting it off the ground is always where the biggest smiles come on students' faces. With the virtual event, what we're trying to do this year to try and give every student that sense of achievement as well, in seeing something that you've actually got to produce, whether you haven't been able to make it into labs or you haven't been allowed to go actually on site because of COVID restrictions. We gave them the opportunity to do an X-plane model and to build an actual aircraft within a simulated environment. We simulated the environment within X-plane. So BMFA Buckminster was actually simulated, and the challenge that the students are competing in live here today, they actually did virtually. They submitted their aircraft and we flew them as exactly like we would today, and tried to give them some of that feedback and videos so that they can actually understand from a pilot's perspective how their aircraft flew. And actually, was there anything that was a bit of surprise, which we all know from an engineering world, there's always surprises. And you never know how it's going to work until that day. It was always going to be a stretch, but we've managed to do it this year. And I think the virtual aspect has helped a lot of teams. And it's something that, maybe we'll take forward. We'll have a talk about it. But for COVID, it's really proved successful with the students. In terms of how we found the live event in terms of COVID, it's very strange not being able to shake everyone's hand on arrival and introduce yourself properly, and having a conversation wearing masks in a hangar is always going to be difficult. But the teams here have risen to that challenge. They've done everything that we've asked of them in terms of COVID restrictions, and they've still managed to get aircraft out to a good standard in which we can actually get them flying. It's always going to be a challenge, and no matter what we do, but we'll always try our best to get the UAS challenge happening to a standard which actually will benefit the teams and give them the experience that we're originally after. Except having to do more safety precautions and sanitizing and lots of hand gel and masks, I think it's a small price to pay for actually the experience and the team dynamic of getting everyone together, which is key into any engineering world that you go into, whether it's military, civilian, or you just want to become a model flyer because you absolutely love it and have a passion for it. The UAS challenge set me on a path where I knew the first job that I went into as a graduate had to be UAS, and my career has developed from that. But if I hadn't have done that, I don't know if I would have been in where I am today without that first sense of, I absolutely love this aspect in UAS and it's brand new. It's something that we're trying to explore. And it just lighted a bit of fire in me to go, yeah, this is what I'm going to go do.
So, Christina, you mentioned there in your last answer about the virtual aspect and the students having to do the X-plane. So what you didn't mention there is that actually you went the extra mile and did all of that flying and coordinated it all. Do you want to tell the listeners a bit about what you had to do there?
Yeah, so I can give you a little bit more. What we did was, as I said earlier, actually simulated the whole event. So all the payload challenge, where they actually deliver a payload to a target, long and short distance across Buckminster, and actually doing that autonomous or manual. Unfortunately, this year, due to time restrictions, we didn't get to do the autonomous aspect, but we did have manual flights in which I had pilots actually fly the aircraft, and we provided feedback on that. The students were required to actually build their aircraft subject to any limitations within the actual model software itself in X-plane. And then what they had to do was just basically, if they had to deviate it from it, which is always possible in the engineering world, having to come up with compromises or different solutions, depending on restrictions within the environment you're working. And they had to tell us about that and explain their the reasoning, which would be exactly what we did at the live event on the day. Something's not working, you need to come up with a fix and it needs to be there. And we tried to simulate that aspect as well. I took on the responsibility of running from from that virtual environment. I have quite a bit of experience in creating environments like that, and actually aircraft fit industry within there to be used as simulation kits for pilots in training. And I thought this is an excellent opportunity, and as well for the students to get another skill set which will help them in industry. And to be honest, if you want to spend your Saturdays and Sundays building aircraft in X-Plane, nothing wrong with that. So there's always part of that in us aerospace engineers, mechanical engineers. If you're interested, you can definitely do it. In terms of that, it was a lot of hard work. We had a very short time frame to get that up, because obviously we wanted the live event to go ahead as much as possible. But we soon realised, obviously with COVID, the restrictions weren't easing enough, that we wanted to give everyone the opportunity. And building that environment within X-Plane took weeks, making sure that you're actually plotting things on Google Maps and all different aspects to get as much information, getting photos of the site to make it as realistic as possible, and then running the aircraft within those environments. It was almost, if not over, 100 hours worth of effort to fly half of the teams that we normally have in the UAS challenge through that. And then what we did was presented the awards via a virtual awards ceremony. So again, the students get that sense of achievement. And what we will be doing after the live event is providing all that feedback and videos of the aircraft flying, so that the students can see what we see and what the pilot experienced. And hopefully that will help them in understanding the way in which we work and the way in which the aviation industry works. And hopefully it's been a benefit to everyone. And I think from what we've seen here, it has.
Yeah, Christina, totally agree. It's been great this year. I've just pulled you off the flight line where we were kind of watching all the teams queue up to get their last flights in before the award ceremony and try and get some more scores on the board. So instead of holding you back from watching all the teams succeed in their flights, I think we'll get back out now and wrap this up and watch some more flying. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for all your effort and volunteering for the challenge.
No, thank you. As is always on the last day of the competition, everyone's got their aircraft flight ready to go last minute. So we've got a runway full of aircraft ready to go. So I think we best go out and let's see what happens with them. But thank you very much for talking to me. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thanks for your time. So we've just come from the prize giving ceremony at the UAS Challenge here and at the BMFA site in Buckminster, and I've managed to pull one of a winner of a couple of awards here, the team leader of Imperial College, in for a quick interview before he packs up his pit lane and heads back home. So with me here, I've got Pablo. So do you want to tell the listeners, Pablo, about what you and the team have just won?
Hi. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. We've just come from the prize giving, and we've won 3 awards: the scrutineering, the airworthiness, and the most promise award. So it's really a great recognition of the effort that the team has put in, and we're really, really grateful that we have been able to achieve these awards, and really thank the IMechE for this event so far. Yeah,
that's great. So have you enjoyed your time here over the last 3 or 4 days at Buckminster?
To be honest, we've really enjoyed it. Like, not only the team experience of getting a few people together all working towards trying to get one plane ready, but also the interaction with other teams. You really see the atmosphere that we're all trying to get these aircraft to fly, and you see a lot of members from other teams interested in your design and trying to help and give suggestions. So it's really, I wouldn't say a holiday because it's a lot of work as well, but it's definitely a very fun few days that we've had here.
So throughout the 9 months of the project, what major challenges did you and your team have to overcome in order to firstly collaborate to design your UAS, and then secondly to manufacture your UAS and manage to get it here to fly off in front of everyone over the week here?
So it's been a long journey since September. To be honest, given the fact that last year the competition ended slightly early because of the coronavirus, and we couldn't have an actual live event, the rules were actually sent already in March for this event. So we actually had quite a bit of summer to start planning ahead of what we would do with our design. So the nice thing of this competition is that there's always a new challenge, a new set of rules that is created by the judges every year. And it really keeps every team trying to innovate. And in the end, each year the team is different because we get new members into it, and we obviously can start from a clean sheet every time. So we started off actually quite early in summer having ideas of what aircraft to design. And although we wanted to go for a conventional standard aircraft that we think can fly well and be robust, we actually decided when we had the full team together in an internal meeting to try and push the boundaries of what our design capabilities are. And we actually went for a flying wing design, a blended wing body. And this obviously is an unconventional design, has some design considerations that, unlike the normal conventional wing and tail configuration, this has new implications. But given COVID, we thought, let's give it a go this year. So that's like maybe the story behind our aircraft. And now looking at the challenges that we've had during the year, we've been working remotely for, I would say, 90% of the time and 100% of the design cycle. And we've also had people based in Singapore and all over the world in almost 8 countries and maybe 3 different time zones. So it's definitely been a very interesting project to manage. When should we do our general team meetings? All these considerations to take into account. But it has definitely been a very interesting journey, and to be able to reach the final stage and come here has been great.
That's brilliant that you've enjoyed the whole process and you've enjoyed the project and your team have enjoyed the project and you've picked up some awards. But on a personal note, aside from what you've learned technically, is there anything else that you can take away from the competition and take it into your career?
Definitely. I mean, there's so many things you experience during this project, and it must be said that this is like a group work effort. So it's not only like me that gains all of this. It's also like interacting with all of our team members, and we in our team we try to split up the leadership between 2 people. We always feel that is a very good way of checking ourselves and not pushing anyone to their limits, because in the end this is a voluntary project for our university. We don't include this in our actual grades for the university. So we all do this because we like it a lot. So for me, the main takeaways that I've learned here is to actually try and use the team we have built and try and get a good atmosphere, listen to everyone, and try to enable everyone to participate. And I think one way, especially with newcomers to the team, which are maybe from first year, which don't have that much technical knowledge, is trying to involve them in a certain way that they can feel ownership also of the project. And to be honest, at the competition today, these 3 days, it's been mostly from the 5 of us that have been able to come, 3 of them were first year. So that's something that I am really pleased of, and I think I definitely work on that towards my career as well, trying to have a good team atmosphere and seeing if collaboration that way can add up, because in the end, us individually, we wouldn't be able to do this in any way. And I would say, yeah, the teamwork is definitely a highlight of this competition.
Pablo, that's great feedback for the IMechE and for the challenge. Thanks very much for your time. I know the rest of your team are probably back in the hangar there at the minute, packing everything up, and you're getting away lightly here at the minute. So I know you're all keen to probably get back home now. So again, I'd like to thank you for your time. Many congratulations on the awards that your team have just been awarded at the prize giving ceremony. And thanks for coming. Thanks for participating. And hopefully I see you again next year.
Well, thank you very much. And from my side, it's definitely a highlight of my academic year. So thank you very much for everything. And I hope this challenge continues for many years and grows in the way it's been growing. So thank you very much for everything.
That's all for this month. In the next episode, we will be looking at the process industry, and specifically brewing. While brewing has been with us for thousands of years, today's brewing and distilling manufacturers rely on a raft of complex technologies and multidisciplinary teams of engineers to ensure products reach the market in a consistent and safe way for the consumer. So join us to find out more about this fascinating aspect of the process industry. You've been listening to Impulse to Innovation, the Institution of Mechanical Engineers podcast. Thanks for listening. We'd love to hear from you, so if you'd like to share any news or any feedback with us, then please email us podcast@imeche.org. All the information on this episode can be found in the episode notes.